Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the uh, meeting of the Arkansas Highway Commission, September the 15th. I'm Robert Moore, Chairman of the Commission. For those of us who are joining us remote, I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners if they would introduce themselves this time, please. Alec, you go first.
Philip Taldo from Springdale.
Keith Gibson from Fort Smith.
Marie Holder from Little Rock.
Okay, thank you very much. And you're going to meet our Director, Laurie Tudor, in a minute. So we'll say hello, Laurie. Okay, Laurie's right there. I want to remind everyone today on when you are asking questions or rendering a testimony, if you'll please make sure your mic is on, and please make sure it's off when you're not offering testimony or questions, so that we'll our voices will be discernible with our friends who are joining us. And I want to give a special welcome to all of our friends who are here in the room with us today. I appreciate you being here and hope you will find our business on behalf of the people of the state of Arkansas interesting and informative today. We have one special item. Dave, we're going to do one little special item without objection here. Caleb, I just said hello to you. Caleb, I want you to come up here a minute, please. For those of you who don't know, this is Caleb Stanton, who formerly was our liaison from Governor Hutchinson here, and Caleb proved to be an extremely capable liaison, very helpful on many fronts, and we enjoyed his time here as we're happy that he has moved on to higher and better places, but we wanted to acknowledge his service here today. We're glad that you are here with us, and we have a little something for you. I'm going to ask Dave if you'd read a little proclamation we did for in your honor.
Arkansas State Highway Commission letter of appreciation, whereas communication is vital in government, not only with our citizens, but also between governmental entities, and whereas good communication between the AHC and the RDOT staff and the governor's office takes on many forms and has always been paramount, whether dealing with emergencies, legislative activities, or addressing the concerns of a citizen. And whereas Caleb Stanton has served as the governor's transportation liaison since 2017, and whereas in that role, Caleb excelled in providing honest and straightforward communication with a quiet demeanor that instilled confidence, and whereas Caleb has recently left his role at the governor's office for a new position, and his willing and helpful nature will be missed by the AHC and RDOT staff. Now, therefore, the members of the Arkansas Highway Commission and staff of the Arkansas Department of Transportation thank Caleb Stanton for his service as transportation liaison for Governor Hutchinson and convey upon him best wishes in all of his future endeavors. Signed this 15th day of September, 2021.
I want to express my appreciation to everyone, both on staff and on the commission, that I've gotten the opportunity to work with over the last 4 years. And I always tell people, as I was leaving the governor's office, looking back, I was very green coming in, and there was a lot of people that were very patient and bringing me along and kind of showing me the ropes. So I very much appreciate the opportunity I've had to work with some great chairmen, Chairman Trammell and the late Chairman Schick, and of course Chairman Moore. And it's been wonderful to see you. You came in at a tough time, Director Tudor, but you've done excellent work, and proud to see where the department's going, and glad that I got to be along for the ride during the biggest funding increase we've seen, and I look forward to seeing what all the department and commission are able to do in the next few years. So thanks again. This is a huge honor, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, as we have done in the past, I'd ask for a motion to approve our minute orders electronically. Motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion second.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So we will proceed accordingly, and I guess we're ready for the minute orders. And we're going to do as we have done previously, unless there's objection, and that is that we will ask Dave to read the minute orders and let him pause a minute. If you have a question or comment, please go ahead and I'll recognize you and make that. If not, we will move on through the minute orders. Yes.
Don't we need to do the meeting minutes first from last?
Well, if you would like to. Well, Dave has got 4 pieces of paper up here in front of me now. I've probably been doing this long enough. I don't need this piece of paper. I guess I got the wrong one in front of me. Well, I guess
Move that we accept the
we'll
minutes from the last meeting.
We'll put a number on each page from now. Okay. Yes, why don't we approve the minutes from the previous meeting?
So
I have a motion from Vice Chairman Farmer. Second?
Second.
Okay, plenty of seconds. All in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting? All in favor say aye. We have it. Now, we're ready, I think, to go ahead and move on to our minute orders for this meeting. Thank you very much. Thanks for keeping me on track.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, minute orders. Minute order number 1, found on page 23, has to do with the purchasing approval of supply and service contracts. Minute order 2, found on page 31, adoption of revised rules for autonomous vehicle programs pursuant to Act 619. Minute order 3, authorization to solicit and evaluate proposals into agreements for the purpose of developing training courses using revenues from the Accelerated Implementation and Deployment of Pavement Technologies program. Minute order 4, found on page 48, authorization to request proposals and enter into necessary contracts for on-call constructability reviews. Minute order 5, authorization to request proposals for the selection of on-call consulting firms and to enter into the necessary agreements with on-call architectural firms. Minute order 6, found on page 57. This minute order calls for designating the Camden Expedition Scenic Highway as an Arkansas Scenic Byway. Minute order 7, out of Cross County. This calls for the transfer of portions of highway right-way on Highway 284 to Cross County. Minute order 8, found on page 75, out of District 3, Lafayette County, authorization to purchase property in the city of Louisville to build a new county area headquarters as the funds become available. Minute order 9, Boone County, This simply declares certain land as surplus property, this minute order. Minute Order 10, Conway County, found on page 96. This calls for the naming of Cypress Creek Bridge on Highway 9 as the USMC, United States Marine Corps, PFC James Ricky Maxwell Memorial Bridge. Minute Order 11, District 8, Pope County. This calls for the naming of a portion of Highway 7 in Russellville as the Sheriff J.B. Winters Memorial Highway. Minute Order 12, found on page 109, Benton County, Highway 72, a portion from Bentonville to Pea Ridge, to be known as Officer Kevin Apple Memorial Highway. Minute Order 13 is simply the final minute order, announces the bids, the opening bids for the September 22nd letting. That is it, Chairman.
Okay, members, any questions or comments? If not, they were approved as they were read, and we will move on to the next item, which I will ask our CFO, Mr. Patrick Patton, to come and give us a revenue update, please.
Good morning. On the first slide, we'll talk about our total state highway revenues, our traditional revenues. Our traditional revenues, which include our motor fuel, registration fees, permits and penalties, and other, is up 5.3% or $3.7 million. If you look at our natural gas, it's up 933% over last year, just 2.8 million. Obviously, we're collecting more severance taxes on the natural gas. Overall, we're 6.5 million above and 9.3% above last year for total revenues. We look at budgeted versus actual. Jumping to the total to the far right is 5.2 million or 7.3%. The highlights of that are once again the natural gas severance tax makes up about 2.8 million of that, and then motor fuel is about 1.5 million above budget. We look at our Act 416 budgeted revenues. We're really flat with what we had last year. It's 9.9 million versus 9.5 for motor fuel. Overall, 10.3 versus 9.9 last year. Of that motor fuel in the far left column, that 9.9 million, 5.6 million of it is gas tax and 4.3 is diesel, to give you the makeup of that. Casino tax, as you know, does not come in until the last day of the fiscal year, so that's going to stay zero for a while. We look at budgeted versus actual for Act 416. Once again, it's really flat. It's just $200,000 difference, and that's in the motor fuel category. Overall, just $200,000 above budget for this year so far. Moving on to the fuel consumption. Gasoline and diesel both are down year over year. Makes up 17.6 million gallons. So, you know, when you look at it overall, we're down 4.7% on consumption. If you look at the rolling 12 months, you can see where we are up. And the previous slide is for the first 2 months, year over year. This slide is a rolling 12 months. So that's where you see that we are a positive almost 3% variance on gas, 7% on diesel, and overall 4% for 83 million gallons. If you you look at the half-cent sales tax for the first 2 months of this year, happy to report that we are continuing our positive variance over DFNA's projections that were were given to us as an update at the end of last fiscal year. The variances aren't as large, but we do continue having a good strong sales tax collection. So for the year, it's $842,000 above DFNA's projections, and $220 just for this month. For the term of the program, you can see that we are at $25 million above DFNA's projections, or 1.68%. And with that, I conclude my report. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Next item on the agenda is for me to turn it over to Director Tudor. So, Director Tudor, I'm going to hand it to you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you. Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda is Federal Highway and Transit issues. It'll be Kevin Thornton, our Assistant Chief of Administration, will bring that update to you.
Thank you, Director Tudor. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. On August 10th, the Senate passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which is also referred to as the I-I-J-A. This is the Senate's version of the next transportation bill. This bill includes $550 billion in new spending over 5 years. $110 billion of this amount is for roads, bridges, and major projects. This represents a 35% increase from the FAST Act spending levels. When you combine our current funding levels with the new spending, Arkansas's portion is $3.6 billion over the 5-year life of the bill. Based on the information we have, this is approximately a $200 million annual increase in our federal funds. It also includes supplemental appropriations for a $37 billion bridge grant program, $7.5 billion for the Rebuilding American Infrastructure and Sustainability and Equity Grants, or RAISE grants, $3.2 billion for the Infrastructure and for Rebuilding America, or INFRA grants, along with several other smaller grant programs. The $550 billion of new spending does include $11 billion for safety and $15 billion for electric vehicles and electric vehicle charging. It also includes other amounts for passenger and freight rail, transit, and broadband. Since the Senate has passed this bill, it is now under consideration in the House. The House has agreed to vote on this on or before September 27th. If the House passes it, it will go to the President, where he is expected to sign it. Now, if this bill, the I-I-J-A, does not pass by the end of this month, we will need another continuing resolution to be sure that our federal funds will continue to flow to us. There is one other item I need to mention to you, or want to mention to you. It is regarding the Highway Trust Fund. This is where almost all of our federal funds come from. Recently, we were notified by the Federal Highway Administration that the balance of funds in the trust fund is dropping to a point where cash management procedures may be needed. Now, this could limit the amount of federal reimbursement that we receive. However, the likelihood of this is slim, and we have faced this situation before, and Congress has always acted as they've needed to be able to prop up the trust fund. However, since we have been notified by FHWA of this possibility, we wanted to make you aware of this possibility as well. Of course, we'll be watching this development with the trust fund and with the I-I-J-A as it develops over the next few weeks and months. That concludes my report.
Kevin,
Yes.
has there been any talk about shoring up that highway trust fund out of these infrastructure bills that and taking a portion of that to do a, is it on? I'm sorry. I wasn't close. To shore it up for the future, in other words, and I don't really know exactly what I'm about to say, but I know there's a formula that's used that fund has been borrowed from, so you don't really get all that they appropriate for you. That's kind of the way I understand it. But anyway, is there any talk of that to shore that up?
The IIJA does include a $90 billion transfer from the general fund into the highway trust fund. So if the IIJA passes, that transfer will occur, and as it is projected over the life of that 5-year bill, that $90 billion is enough to support the expenditures along with the revenue that's coming in. However, Congress has not yet been able to find a solution for a long-term funding source for the trust fund so that the revenue that's coming into it on its own would simply support the funding levels. They have chosen for several years now to prop it up with transfers from the general fund. But it's in there.
Okay, they're going to prop it up again.
Yes, sir.
Possibly.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's my next question. Assuming they don't pass this bill and we go back to a CR,
Yes, sir.
the levels at that point go back to the actual revenues being produced by the gas tax going into the trust fund. Is that correct?
The CR funding, the way the CRs have worked in the past is that they have continued the expenditure levels from the previous year or the previous year
The
before.
authorization.
Yes, sir. Now, the Congress could elect to put a temporary infusion of cash in the CR to
Okay.
carry us forward from there. That's one of the options they have in front of them. And if they don't do that, those expenditure levels would continue at the same level the FAST Act was, the levels we're expending at now, which would bring the possibility of cash management procedures that would increase the possibility that we would see that from FHWA. And if those measures are enacted, that's when we would begin to see Federal Highway Administration limiting the expenditures to be equal to, or the reimbursements to be equal to what the revenue that's coming into the trust fund.
That generally, what they're putting in additional funds equates to about 35–40% of the trust fund.
It's anywhere from 10 to 15 billion a year. I think since 2008, they've had to put 150 to 54 billion in there to support it. But each year, it's 10 to 15 billion dollars. We're expending more than what of the revenue that's coming.
It'd be a pretty significant drop off if we went back to just a pay as you go, money in,
Yes.
money out.
Yes, it would be. It would be.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. Next on the agenda is consultant selection. On-call certified public accountant review services. You approved by minute order 2021-32 in May 2021. You authorized us to select and enter into agreements with firms to perform reviews of overhead cost rates for our consultant firms that come to that we go into contract with. There were 5 proposals received and reviewed. The evaluation committee looked at these proposals and they recommend entering into agreements with 3 firms: Booth Management Consulting, LLC, out of Columbia, Maryland; M.H. Miles Company, CPA, PC, Decatur, Georgia; and Stambaugh Ness Incorporated, out of York, Pennsylvania. Is there any questions?
I had a question on that, Director Tudor. We didn't have any applicants from Arkansas firms, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
And we do advertise in the state.
Absolutely. So with that, any other questions? We'll need a motion that the firms as recommended by the evaluation committee be selected to provide on-call certified public accountant services for us.
I'll make
So move.
Second?
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carried.
The next one is from, you approved minute order 2019-92 in September of 2019 for us to advertise for architectural engineering firms to provide design services for the Bella Vista Welcome Center. 13 letters of interest were received, and 3 firms were selected to provide proposals. Crafton Toll and Associates out of Fayetteville, Arkansas, Cromwell Architect Engineers Incorporated out of Little Rock, and Garver LLC out of North Little Rock. Based on the evaluation committee's review, it is recommended that negotiations begin with Garver LLC. Any questions? So we'll need a motion that the firm as recommended by the evaluation committee be selected to provide architectural services for design of the Arkansas Welcome Center in Bella Vista.
Have a motion.
Second.
Second. Motion made and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carried.
Next on the agenda are the proposed implementation rules of the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee study that was conducted last year and the recommendations that followed. Of these recommendations, we've put together implementation rules which were sent to you last week to review, and then we provided you a hard copy this morning in this notebook right here, or this report right here. Just to kind of recap, in 2019, Act-IIJA of the 92nd General Assembly was enacted. This act required the Arkansas Legislative Council to conduct a study of the processes and functioning of the Arkansas Department of Transportation. Arkansas Legislative Council, or ALC, assigned the study and its duties to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee, which we call HCRAS. HCRAS selected the consultant firm Guidehouse LLP to perform the study and provide recommendations. On September 24, 2019, Guidehouse began the study. The study identified 3 recommendations across 6 focus areas. HCRAS submitted the final report to ALC for their adoption, which they did adopt on November 20th, 2020. In 2021, during the 93rd General Assembly, Act 739 was put into place, and it requires that the department submit the rules regarding the implementation of the recommendations to HCRAS for review. So those are the rules that are in this report that we'll go over in just a minute. We're also required to submit to HCRAS for review any proposed contracts over $50,000 that we're going to put into place to help us implement some of these rules that we'll talk about in a minute. HCRAS is going to allow the public a reasonable length of time to look over the rules and give their comments, along with any contracts that we submit to HCRAS for review. Those will also go through a public review process. Today we are submitting these proposed rules for your consideration, and at the end of this presentation I'll need a motion to allow me to submit these rules for review to HCRAS. So going through this quickly, of the focus area organizational structure, the first recommendation was finalize KPIs, which are key performance indicators, and implement performance management. And basically this recommendation is just to adopt some leading performance management practices to formulate and track a variety of operational effectiveness key performance indicators. We've put together our rules. I won't read through them. I know you've had time to look at them. But that is a summary of what we plan to do with this recommendation. So I'll stop here, and if you have any questions, if you'd like to ask any questions about these rules before we move on. Recommendation number 2, strengthen knowledge management in anticipation of increased retirement. This recommendation our rules will allow us to, or we will adopt leading practices regarding knowledge management and preservation in anticipation of increased personnel retirement to allow RDOT to mitigate knowledge loss due to turnover, identify operational efficiencies, and improve succession planning and training. These rules will implement this recommendation. Okay, the next focus area is portfolio planning. The third recommendation under this focus area is publish status of construction projects and maintenance activities. We are going to, with these rules, revise RDOT's existing communication of construction project and maintenance activities to make communication to the public less disjointed and more cohesive. Right now, there's several different places this information is available. It is available to the public, but it's in different places, and that's what we'll be doing. We'll be making a more cohesive place for people to see about what's going on with construction projects and maintenance activities. And this is going to be a fairly easy recommendation to implement because of our new website that we've developed in the last 6 months.
Lori, this is anecdotal, but I've gotten lots of compliments from the public on the website, and they've really been utilizing it to figure out their traffic patterns for the construction projects we have going on in Little Rock. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you. I feel I'm very proud of our website, and I think it's taken us in the right direction. It's going to be instrumental with a lot of these rules that we're going over today. So thank you for that.
I was doing a comment, Lori, that between the new website and then our iDrive capabilities, there's a lot of information out there that we can really pull together. If somebody wants to know something, it's there. It's just we've got to get it organized, make it a little bit more user-friendly. But I think we've done a great job as far as gathering information.
Yeah, we have a lot of data, and we're excited about sharing it in a way that's beneficial to everyone. So it's going to be a good. Within the next year, I think everyone will be very proud of our website and what you can find out there.
I just wanted to comment on something on finding information on the website. There's certain things that the public wouldn't necessarily know where to look for. For instance, future route of the Springdale bypass, for instance. And I didn't even know where to go look for it. So I talked to Jared,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, well, that's under environmental.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, stupid me. I mean, but I mean, how does, for the normal person, how does a future plan for a road fall under environmental? I mean, you know what I'm talking about? It just doesn't
Right,
seem to.
and that's where stakeholder involvement, as we restructure how they get to that information, will be. It means a lot to us because it goes.
Oh, I'm sure it does.
It's
Yes.
the perfect place for it as far as we're concerned.
I'm
But
not
that's-
arguing that at all.
But that's where stakeholder involvement and people that will actually be using the website is going to be so crucial, and that's part of the rules that we're going to use to implement this recommendation. So we will get with you. Commissioner Taldo,
I'm
and-
sure I'm not any different than
No,
anybody else, but
You're not.
we have people all the time calling, where can I find a map of this or a map of that? And I don't like to just say, go to the website,
Right,
because I can't even find it there necessarily.
right.
There's a lot of stuff there,
Absolutely, yeah.
but, well, I won't dwell on that.
Well, that's what we'll be working on to get it more user-friendly. We have
Right.
a lot of good information. You just need to be able to find it easily with just a click or two and not,
Yes.
have to
And I did
drill
after I
away.
knew where to go. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, number 4 is implement a platform that tracks all stakeholder inquiries to resolution. And what this recommendation and these rules will accomplish is we're going to develop a process to uniformly track all stakeholder inquiries from receipt to resolution. Just do it in a more organized fashion. We do this in some specific areas, but we don't do it department-wide. And so this is going to be something we're going to work on. It'll be a true enhancement to our ability to provide great customer service to the public.
Director,
Yes.
just for everybody's benefit, those who are here and those who may be watching or listening, what is the definition of a stakeholder?
A stakeholder is anyone that is interested in our transportation system, that uses it, that is part of their business, that is, and that's pretty much everyone, because everyone's touched by transportation. But then there's some, like the legislature, like the commission, like, businesses, contractors. Those are specific stakeholders that need to be able to see our information easily. So but it really does mean just about everyone.
Lori, I would think this platform, if it's based on particular constituents or stakeholders, it will also create the efficiency of if somebody has a problem and they've gone to 2 different departments, we won't be spending time on it with 2 different groups of employees. We can narrow that down to 1, and that will be very helpful for the staff as well, I would think.
I think this particular recommendation and our implementation of it is going to make us a lot more efficient. I'm looking forward to getting this in place. And it's also going to give us an opportunity to see what are the questions we get the most, and maybe be able to address that in a way that makes it a lot easier. People get that question answered just really, really quickly instead of having to call and do this and do that. So again, we'll have stakeholder involvement to see what they need, what they're expecting, how this is going to work. Of course, we'll have you guys involved because you get a lot of questions. I know you do.
Yeah, that was kind of a question I had too about the source of input. Does it come through the central office and phone calls? Does it come through our district engineers' offices?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
there's so many.
Yes.
There's so many points of entry
Yes.
for inquiries. And to get all that, and get it. That's going to be a Herculean task.
We're
We'll-
gonna
we'll
have
work.
we're gonna bite it off in small bites. It is gonna be a very big task. We're gonna probably have to get a consultant on board. We've looked at some canned programs, off-the-shelf programs, but we think to really do what we need to do at the department, we're gonna probably need to get some customized software built. But we're going to be looking into that in the next few months. We'll keep you up to date because we really want to get input before we go into before we invest a lot of time or money. We'll get your input. Okay, the next focus area is procurement. Implement efficiencies in procurement and purchasing. And so this recommendation and the rules that accompany it will optimize and standardize procurement and purchasing procedures. It covers 2 distinct areas, not only the procurement of our equipment and materials, but also procurement of construction contracts. And this will we're just going to be using data and other things just to maximize all the efficiencies available in order to save money as we do our procurement processes. So I'll just let you look at that for a minute. The next one under procurement is implement construction contractor performance measurements. And this recommendation and rules will implement a way that we can look at contractor performance and take a measurement of that. We already rigorously monitor contractor quality through our inspections on the job, but we have never really used a tool to screen quality out in the field during and look at that. And this is going to be a very subjective way of looking at some things and not necessarily doing anything specifically to to penalize or disincentive, do anything that's detrimental to the contractors. It's just going to be an avenue for us to help ourselves improve and our contractors improve at the end of a project. We can get together and talk about what worked, what didn't, where could we have done better, where could they have done better, just to open those lines of communication to make to learn from our mistakes as we move forward with different contracts. That's the way we envision this to happen when it's all said and done. So that's where we're at on it.
And on this one, it will be a memorialized review without a grade, so that someone could go back in the department and look at all aspects of the project and not just the highlights or the end result, but be able to compare apples to apples, as it were.
Right.
Excellent.
Under the focus area expenditures, number 7, implement project and portfolio management frameworks. So this would enhance our existing systems with leading practices, and a project management office may be something in the future for us. Right now, the recommendation wanted us to have a specific office to manage our projects. Right now, we do have that in our program management division, but this would be that would be a more direct or a lot more project management focused if we go this route. So we're going to look into that, into best practices, and look into some software to see if a new construction project management office would be a good use of state taxpayer funds, as well as a maintenance project management office. We'll just look at, this is going to take a lot of homework. It's a big step to add that many more people in a new office. So right now we're doing that within the divisions that we have available. So this is just going to take some stakeholder involvement. We'll get your comments. We'll work towards this and make this, try to do a better job of managing our projects, but at the same time be efficient and understand that we can only, we need to be good stewards of the taxpayer funding.
Is there something to the equivalent of like an economic impact study that you made the comment that it's going to require adding a lot more people and doing some things differently? And that's great if it actually saves more money than it's costing. But how do you determine whether that break-even point is?
That's, I guess that's the $1 million question, and we'll be looking into it to make sure if we do make these kind of changes, it is going to add value. And it will take something like that, some kind of an evaluation of how we do things now, and if we add this to our process, will it make us better? But how much will that cost and all that? So.
Thanks.
Yes.
Do we get input on this these programs and things from educators, that engineering schools and things? I mean, things are we implementing things that the new engineers come out are learning whenever they're in school? I mean, getting their degree. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I mean, does this all fold together?
I would say that a lot of these things are organizational, or
Okay.
I'm not too sure how much new engineers coming out of school would.
Okay.
I'm unsure I'm understanding your question.
I'm not sure I understand either.
But you know,
I'll think about it.
if they have good ideas, we are all ears. We love our new engineers that come on board right out of school. They have great ideas about what they've learned and the latest stuff. And if they have some input on organizing the department, we will certainly listen to it.
Well, I guess what I was looking at here, construction and maintenance projects and metrics to keep up with all of that. Do they learn that type of thing at the university, how to utilize all these programs?
Oh, I'm sure they. Well, I'm sure
That's
they
part
have,
of their deal.
Well, I mean, I know when I went to school, I had a couple of classes for computer programs and learning how to take data and use data to come up with solutions for problems. So I'm sure they have that capability. Does anyone in the room like to add to what I'm saying?
I
Charlie?
think that's fine. I'm going to
Yeah.
think a little harder on that. when I come
Okay.
back.
Well, I would add under that recommendation, it may just be as simple as a partnership with some of our Arkansas schools to make sure they're aware of what software we're using and that we're cohesive in that way, that our engineers are being trained so they can hopefully come work here at RDOT someday.
That's good. Yeah.
You
Yeah,
just bail me out real good.
That's what I'm here for.
You-
Yeah.
That's a great.
Thank you.
That's a great. That's great. We can partner with our universities and say, this is the direction we're going, and it'd be great to get engineers coming out that know how to use this kind of software. That's awesome. So. Number 8, implement best practices in construction project design. This recommendation and rules is to adopt, implement, and document best practices in construction project design to ensure the consistent use of best practices. Now, I will say that we already use best practices, and we do. We have all that in place. We do value engineering. We do context engineering and all those things. What we haven't done is track what cost savings we've made by implementing those practices. So that'll be something we're already starting to do. We realize the need to do that. It's all great that we're doing these things, but if you don't track it and can't report it, it loses some of its value. So we've already started tracking practical design. When we do apply that, we have rules in place of when we apply practical design measures, which is a reduced design based on the functionality of the road. And there is a cost saving and a tangible cost saving to use these things, and we have started tracking it. But we'll do that in a formalized way. It'll be part of our KPIs. It'll be part of our dashboards of showing how we're more efficient and how we're using these processes to make us more efficient. Information technology. Okay, this is the one where I'm not very smart about. So if I have to, Charles is on deck if y'all have questions. Okay, so build an IT governance structure to guide the department's IT investments. So what this recommendation and our rules will do is going to build an information technology governance structure to determine RDOT's IT investments to support business objectives, help optimize RDOT operations, manage enterprise risk, and meet internal and external stakeholder needs. So I guess in layman's terms, that just means to be more deliberate and organized into our IT endeavors in the future. And to put together the governance committee to help guide that and get input from everyone in the department and just be a little bit more deliberate about how we move forward with any of our IT applications. Okay, number 10, implement midterm IT initiatives that can optimize business operations. So this will adopt information technology initiatives that optimize business operation. Right now, RDOT spends about $5.3 million on software applications annually, and we have about 300 databases. We are data rich, but we're going to organize that better. We're going to be able to maybe do away with some of those databases that are redundant. We're going to do some things to make ourselves more efficient, and that we can mine our data and use it better because we're more deliberate about the data that we have, and we know all the data we have, and we're not doing a lot of redundant data entry.
Does our current overall system, does it all interface with one another, or do we have some systems that don't talk to one another?
That's on the, they don't talk to one another. It's a hodge of some homegrown things, some soft, an organization this big with the amount of work that we have to do, it is really difficult to do an enterprise system. It's doable, but it's a huge undertaking. And I'll just give an example of my own time when I used to do real work. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I would be faced with a problem, and I would create an access database to solve that problem. One is the STIP. I used to be responsible for putting the STIP together every year. It used to be done in a Word document, and then I think it went to maybe Excel. And I said, this is ridiculous. We need to do this in a database format. And so I created a database for the STIP. And since then, it's taken legs. It's huge now. It's a lot better than what I did. But what I'm saying is that's what happens across the department. We have technology at our fingertips. We're able to solve problems. But sometimes there's just all these silos and these individual programs that we put together to help us do our jobs. And what this will do is it'll just help us to do that enterprise system become more efficient.
And we're not unique. That happens in a lot of large organizations, medical, retail. I think we're entering a time now where everybody's seeing the true value of trying to get everything integrated. But like I said, we're not the only ones going through that, I promise you.
No, and it's very painful. It's a painful ordeal. But we're going to do it. It's so much. It's very. And then they've got that. That's my program. You have that kind of territorial thing going on. So it's going to take some culture change. It's going to take some hard work, but we'll get it done. Develop critical pillars necessary to establish IT as an effective business partner. The goal of this is to articulate what services our IT department will deliver and when it will deliver them, and its standards for effective delivery. So it's just going to, again, make us more efficient to have a game plan in place for our IT division instead of putting out fires, have an absolute plan to move forward and to be able to accomplish like what we just talked about. That's going to be hard to get to if we're constantly putting out fires and just doing what needs to be done today. So we're going to put together a way for our IT division to be an effective business partner to move us forward. Charles gave me the thumbs up on all three, so I get an A today for IT. So our next focus area is people capabilities. Now these two are together because the rules to implement these two recommendations are very, very similar. So we'll just do all the rules that we're going to, that I'm asking you to approve today. We'll take care of both 12 and 13, which is to ensure staff can develop their careers at the department and improve staff capabilities to align with current and future organizational needs. So what this will do is we're going to develop a career development plan for RDOT employees so that we can increase retention, reduce turnover-related costs, strengthen its talent pipeline, and improve morale. We will also improve staff capabilities to align with current and future needs by increasing and strengthening our training. We've made big strides with this. Our Human Resources Division, you're going to hear from Crystal Woods here in just a minute. They have done more on these two recommendations past and since the recommendations, before the recommendations and after the recommendations. They are really, really on top of making our staff the best they can be. But I will say that because of this recommendation, develop their careers, and we were allowed to put into place some career paths we didn't have before during this last legislative session to help us accomplish this goal, so employees have a clear vision of how they can move up the career ladder. It becomes a career to them, not just a job. But I come on at entry level, but I see clear steps of how to make this a career, how I can improve and go up the ladder and get to a place where I'm very proud of where I'm at. And we were able to accomplish that in this last legislative session, and we still have work to do. But Crystal and her staff, this is going to be, this is one of the most exciting recommendations. And implementing this, I'm excited about this one because this department is only as good as our employees. And we know that, and we want to do all we can for our employees. So there's several rules here. I should have been scrolling through as I was talking. But I will just say that after this, if there's no more questions, I need a motion to authorize the department to submit these rules to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee for their review as required by Act 739 of 2021, and after the HCRAS committee review, to authorize us to publish these rules for public comment.
Okay, we have the director has informed us the nature of a motion. Somebody like to offer that motion?
So moved.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Ayes carried unanimously. Director, let me say your presentation today and this copious document are obviously reflective of the extremely hard work that you and the staff have put in. And I think it is also, I think I'm probably speaking for all the commissioners on this, it's very impressive that you all have taken the review, the Guidehouse review, and all the time that was spent interacting with the persons who conducted that review, and have utilized that opportunity to make the department better, to take the opportunity to have some outside eyes looking in, hone in on things that you can do better, some things that perhaps have been added. And I think that is a real tribute to you and all the staff that worked on this to take such a positive attitude. And also, I think the taxpayers and people of the state of Arkansas can look very favorably on this exercise, that it was money that was well spent, and we've benefited and will be a better department from it. So thank you and all the staff on behalf of the commission.
Thank you for those encouraging words. Hopefully moving forward, we're going to see some great changes here at the department. So with that, I'm going to ask Crystal Woods, the Division Head of Human Resources, to come up. I've asked her to do a COVID-19 update for you. We haven't done that in a while, and a lot has happened since then.
There we go. Good morning. As of this morning, we have 32 employees who are currently in isolation due to testing positive for COVID-19. And we have 64 who are quarantined due to either having been exposed to a positive person or having COVID-related symptoms. This graph shows a week-to-week comparison of our positive cases since we began tracking them in June 2020. As you can see, our peak was the week after Christmas with 58 positive tests in one single week. Thankfully, the numbers began falling sharply after Christmas. We had 1 week in March with no positive test results at all, and several weeks in May with only 1 positive. Unfortunately, in June and July, cases began increasing again, and then they have started declining in August, as you can see at the end of the chart. We saw a slight uptick last week, presumably because of the Labor Day holiday. And I just looked at the numbers this morning. We've only had 5 positive tests so far this week. So we believe that the end of the chart will start going back down when we record this week. So hopefully that means we're starting to see the end of the second surge. Since the beginning of the pandemic, we've had a little over 800 employees who have tested positive for COVID-19. This chart shows the source of their exposure, although the majority of them, 43%, do not know where they contracted the virus. 28% got the virus from someone who lives in their house, 15% from someone at work, 9% from an extended family member who doesn't live in their house, and 5% from another known source, such as a friend or someone at church, or as a result of travel. Regionally, the majority of our cases have come from Central Arkansas, followed by Northwest Arkansas, and the lowest percentage, by a pretty good margin, is in the southeastern region of the state. The Human Resources Division has about 20 employees who are conducting contact tracing all across the state every day, sometimes all day. So these numbers change by the hour. We use the data to evaluate the effectiveness of our safety precautions. We also use it to provide more training and support where needed, especially in areas where we're seeing a lot of exposures at work. To date, we've had almost 850 potential workplace exposures, but thankfully 86% of those did not develop COVID-19. And those who did have fully recovered. We still have 2 right now who are recovering, but they're both expected to be released to return to work by the end of the week. And most of our workplace exposures occur in our maintenance crews, where employees have to ride in crew cabs together, so they can't effectively, achieve a 6-foot distance, which is why so many were quarantined but didn't, thankfully, get COVID.
Are you still operating under limited numbers of employees in the, I know you were in the beginning of the pandemic, y'all were limiting the number of employees in the cabs. Are you still at a lesser number, or?
We do try to limit, if it's a crew cab, we try to limit it to 4 rather than 6 or so. During the height of the pandemic, during phase 1, we were trying to limit to 2. So we have eased up on that some, but we still have some limitations in place.
Thank you.
In April, we hosted vaccine clinics in every district and in the central office, and we were happy to have 1,022 employees participate in our on-site clinics. That was about 27% of the workforce at the time, and we had transportation employees had just become eligible, so it was pretty early in the vaccine effort. When we announced in July that we would offer vaccine bonus payments for anyone having at least 1 dose, we had 1,457 employees quickly sign up for the payment. And that was 435 more than we knew about, who had participated in our on-site clinics. So that was about 39% of the workforce. Between mid-July and the deadline on August 20th, we had an additional 700 employees get at least 1 dose of the vaccine to be eligible for the payment. So that was another 19%, which brings us to a total of 58% of our workforce that we know of is at least partially vaccinated. As of Monday, that rate for adults in Arkansas is 55%, so we're doing a little bit better than the rest of the state as a whole. In response to the governor's request, RDOT does offer paid time off for employees to get vaccinated. We also offer up to 80 hours of paid time for those who test positive or have to quarantine. We also decided to follow the governor's lead by inviting local doctors from every county to come out to visit with our crews, just to answer their questions about the vaccine, about the virus. And we saw some success with that. By then, a lot of people had already made up their mind, but we have seen several people decide to get vaccinated as a result of those visits. We also frequently share news and information from the governor's press conferences by email. We reinforce our safety protocols with posters, with signage, as you see around this facility, emails and other forms of communication. Unfortunately, despite a pretty massive statewide effort to inform and educate people about COVID-19 and how to protect themselves, many of us have lost friends and family members. We never want to lose sight of the people, so in closing, we'd like to take a few minutes to remember the 6 RDOT employees who lost their lives to COVID. In December of last year, we lost Jimmy Beams, a mechanic in our District 5 shop in Batesville. Jimmy had 16 years of service. He was 57 years old. In January, Eric Hall passed away from COVID. He was a storeroom assistant in our District 6 storeroom in Little Rock. Eric had been with us almost 4 years. He was 54. In May, we lost Jimmy Kanzler. Jimmy was the area headquarters attendant in our Woodruff County maintenance crew in District 1. Jimmy had almost 18 years of service. He was 68 years old. In July, Alex Golden died from COVID. He was a maintenance specialist in our District 7 ceiling crew in Camden. Alex had been here more than 10 years. He was 44. In August, we lost Darren Smith. He was a data collection technician in our System Information and Research Division, working out of Northwest Arkansas. Darren had more than 19 years of service. He was 53 years old. And just 10 days ago, Chandler Moore passed away from COVID. He was a sergeant in our Highway Police Division working in the Northeast region of the state. Chandler had been with us for just over 11 years. He was only 34 years old. Going forward, we will continue offering paid time off for vaccinations and for those who test positive or have to quarantine. We'll continue to encourage employees to follow the safety measures and share the most up-to-date information regarding the virus and vaccines. We also plan to coordinate with local pharmacies to offer booster shots when the time comes. And that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Krista, do we know how many breakthrough cases we experienced now?
You know, we have just started in the last month, I would say, asking our employees who test positive if they're vaccinated or not. And we do have some of that data. I don't have a percentage, but I do have some of our more recent cases I can send you.
We're starting to see that.
We have a few. The majority are not vaccinated, but there have been a few who are. Thankfully, most of those have had mild cases. Thank you.
I would just like to say that Crystal has done an excellent job throughout this whole thing, and she has borne a huge burden. And thank you, Crystal. Thank you for all you've done. I couldn't have asked for anyone better to be heading up this pandemic and what it's meant to the department. And you've done an excellent job, so thank you for that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about upcoming events. Lots going on in the fall. I guess everybody, the nicer weather, everyone's wanting to schedule things. So got a pretty busy September and October. A lot of us do. So September 15th today, I'll be going to the HCRAS committee. We'll be giving them these rules for implementation of the recommendations from the study, along with giving them an update on projects over $10 million that are active. And so that's happening this afternoon at 2:30. Next week, Commissioner Gibson and some of the staff, including me, are going to go to Washington, D.C. and talk to our congressional delegation and just, encourage them about the infrastructure bill and what's coming up, and then vote on September 27th that Kevin talked about earlier. So hopefully it's a timely and it'll be a good, productive meeting. Then we've got several different meetings along the way. The one that everyone should be put on their calendars because it's going to be a big deal is the Bella Vista bypass ribbon cutting. That is a huge success for the department in that it completed I-49 from I-40 up to the Missouri state line, and it's completed from the Missouri state line up to I-29 in Kansas City. So that interstate, that missing link, is now going to be in place. So that's going to be a great celebration. I hope you all can be there. Some other dinners and things like that of speaking engagements, but the Highway 270 groundbreaking on October 12th, that's one of our CAP projects. So I hope that you can be at that. Still up in the air about if we have a luncheon or not. I'll keep you informed about that. And other than that, your next highway meeting is your next commission meeting is on November 3rd. Now, on October 11th, I guess it didn't get it. Is it in there? Oh. It got added at the last minute. We are going to have the freshman orientation for the legislature. We're inviting some of our legislative friends in to come in and have a small presentation and to do an on-site tour of some of our show and tells and just kind of get to know them better. So that's on October 11th.
Lori?
I'm sorry.
I just had a question on one of these.
Okay.
Well, Western Arkansas Intermodal Authority meeting in Fort Smith.
Yes.
And does that have to do with the Arkansas River Intermodal plan that
Yes.
Senator Pitch has been?
Yes, sir.
Is that what that is?
Yes, it has to do with the development of that Fort Chaffee property that has, rail, interstate, river, barge. Commissioner Gibson can probably talk about it more, even better than I can.
I don't need to know more about it. I was just curious if that. I want to just say that that's real important, not just to Fort Smith, but the whole I-49 corridor, as far as moving freight. Tyson Food, it's an important thing for Tyson Foods, and I'm sure a lot of other companies along there that movement of product has become a more problematic thing over the past couple of years than it's been in the past.
Add that the potential of that project just underscores the critical need to complete I-49, how important that is, that we do the best we can to try to get I-49, the remainder of I-49 in Arkansas started and completed, because that's going to be a critical part of what's necessary to make this thing work. And as you said, Philip, it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal for Northwest Arkansas, but not only Northwest Arkansas, but for that entire corridor there. We can talk more about that later at the appropriate time, but yeah, I'd encourage everybody to come to that if you want to know more about what's going on with that proposed facility.
So other business, I want to take a moment to congratulate our chairman, Robert Moore, for receiving the Ouachita Baptist University Distinguished Alumni Award for Public Service to the state of Arkansas. Much deserving award. We got to have a luncheon on August 31st. It was a really lovely luncheon with a lot of Robert's old friends there that spoke so highly of him, and this was a wonderful event for a wonderful chairman who's done so much for the state of Arkansas. So just wanted to say congratulations, Robert, and thank you for all you do for RDOT and for the state of Arkansas.
Thank you very much, Laura, and I want to again thank those of you who were there for your attendance. It was a true honor, and go ahead and tell the truth. There were many of my Baptist friends that were still wondering, what are you doing up there? It was a great honor. Thank you very much. I guess that's a good time to close right there. And anything about any other business?
I just wanted to say something real quick. The safety cables we put out on interstates and divided highways and things, I just wanted to say personally, that impacted me here in the last 2 weeks. And those things, anybody who says those aren't worth the money, they don't know what they're talking about. But my wife would have been in a head-on or a broadside with an 18-wheeler on I-55 about 2 weeks ago, had those safety cables not been there. So again, those are good things. Glad we've done them. I want to continue to do them. They're worth the cost.
I'm so glad that that would have been horrible. So thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, we don't know how many crashes are prevented. We'll never really know, but there's a lot. We repair those cables.
We have no idea how many lives have been saved.
We don't.
By those cables being there. Anyway, that's a good program. Proud we're doing it.
Any other comments? If not, that'll conclude the meeting. Thank you all very much for being here today. We'll see you next go around.